After being fired from his job in New York, a bankrupt teacher returns to his old town and, on the first day of school, discovers that all the children in the school have turned into zombies. Today we're going to recap the story of the 2014 movie, Cooties. In a slaughterhouse in the United States, chickens are brutally eliminated to have their meat shredded and then processed into nuggets. This food is then distributed to supermarkets and served as lunch in schools across the country. Clint Hadson is a young American teacher who is trying to make it as a writer. So far, however, he hasn't been able to write a single successful novel. That morning, the man drives to Fort Chicken for his first day of school and soon realizes that the teenagers who attend that school are quite peculiar. When he arrives in the director's office, Clint meets Director Sims, who immediately asks the newcomer to give him his cell phone. According to Sims, telephone handsets are forbidden in that school for both the children and the teachers, as they need to set an example for their pupils. Sims explains that, unlike some Boston schools that are totally revolutionary, he remains conservative and wants to take teenagers back to the pre-digital era. Its aim is to get young people to enjoy their childhood like the previous generation and exhaust their energy playing in the playground during recess instead of getting stuck into games and social networks. After explaining his philosophy of life to the new teacher, Sims hands him a map of the school, but Clint says he already knows the place, having graduated from the school a few years ago. After this terrible welcome, Clint heads to the teacher's lounge and meets Lucy, his old classmate, with whom he was completely in love. During a brief conversation, the woman introduces her old friend to the other teachers and Wade shows interest in his writing career. When asked about his latest books, Clint reveals that he is writing his first novel and Lucy is excited to learn more about his work. When the bell rings, the woman offers to accompany him to his classroom and, from the very first contact with the class, Clint tries to make friends with the students. However, as soon as the new teacher introduces himself, Patriot takes the opportunity to make jokes that leave Clint totally baffled. At this point, the teacher realizes that the boy is using his cell phone in class and orders him to hand it over. However, he gives up taking the cell phone when Patriot threatens to tell his parents lies about Clint to get him fired. Right at the start of the lesson, the aspiring writer presents the first chapter of his new novel and asks who would like to read it in front of the class. Immediately, Calvin comes forward to do the task and Clint sits down to listen with the rest of the class. During the reading, Patriot takes the opportunity to tease one of his classmates, who has been behaving strangely from an early age. The bully then pulls the girl's hair and is startled to realize that part of her scalp has come loose from her head. Just then, Shelley gets up and attacks the boy, biting off a chunk of his face. On noticing the assault, Clint rushes to get the girl off his colleague and ends up being scratched by her. After the attack, the young woman runs out of the room and the teacher takes Patriot straight to the infirmary. After checking the wound, the nurse says that the boy will need to be taken to hospital to receive some stitches and he begins to show suspicious symptoms. Meanwhile, in the schoolyard, Dink goes after Shelley with the intention of avenging the bite she gave his friend in the face. However, when he approaches her, the boy is hit and then starts running around the playground scratching all the children he comes across. Immediately, the youngsters turn into zombies and band together to attack the school monitor. As the virus spreads, new victims are made and the zombie army gains countless allies. Children and teachers are attacked on the court while Wade tries to hit the ball into a basketball hoop. However, the man is so focused on this mission that he doesn't even realize what is happening. At that moment, Rick is inside his van and notices a strange movement taking place. So he decides to call the principal and informs him that Professor Peterson is being devoured by some students. Immediately, Sims walks to the court to find out what's going on and also becomes the victim of a brutal attack. So far, only the teacher's room has remained free of contamination and no one has noticed that the children have turned into zombies until Doug points to the window and calmly informs them that there is carnage going on outside. Terrified, the teachers try to contact the police and only then does Wade realize that, behind him, all the children have turned into wild animals. Suddenly, the physical education teacher is surrounded and tries to escape. He then uses some techniques he learned in American soccer to knock down the monsters and dodge their attacks. Quickly, Wade runs into the school and manages to get rid of the horde of zombies. He then heads for the teacher's lounge, at which point police officer Dave arrives at the school. The man tries to understand the reason for the riot and asks the children to explain what's going on, but as he approaches the railing, his fingers are bitten off and he runs back to the car. While trying to escape, the policeman is attacked by a teenager who was hiding in the back of the vehicle and Wade goes into shock. Afraid of what might happen if he stayed in that school, he decided to take a chance and opened the door to try to escape. Just then, Patriot appears and tries to bite his teacher, but Wade manages to throw him away and the boy goes after Clint. Seeing the newcomer in danger, Rebecca attacks the boy with pepper spray and consequently attracts his attention. However, when Patriot goes to devour her, the woman manages to escape and another teacher ends up being pushed into the cupboard along with the creature. Immediately, Wade locks the door and the teachers get together to find a safe way out of the school. However, the school is completely surrounded by zombie students and the group has to hide in the library. When they get there, they meet Calvin and discover that he is the only student who has not yet been infected by the virus. So Lucy asks the boy to accompany them and the whole team goes up to the second floor of the building. At that moment, Patriot manages to free himself from the cupboard and opens the door so that the zombie horde can enter the school. Hiding in the music room, the survivors try to contact the police for help, but the phones aren't working. Observing the blisters around Shelley's face, Doug begins to suspect that the young woman has been infected by a virus that is shaping her behavior. When he realizes that he won't be able to call for help, Wade comes up with a plan that consists of going down to the garage and running quickly to his truck. To avoid being bitten by the zombies, he takes a violin and advises his fellow teachers to take other musical instruments to defend themselves. However, Clint says that this is a suicidal plan and suggests that they run to the principal's office to get the cell phones that have been confiscated. What the survivors don't realize is that Patriot has already found the devices and destroyed them all so that their teachers can't call for help. Luckily, Lucy has a better idea than going to the principal's office. She proposes that her colleagues stay at the school until 3 p.m. At that time, the parents will show up to pick up their children, so all the group has to do is climb onto the roof to ask for help when the adults arrive. Suddenly, Clint begins to feel ill and Wade realizes that he has been infected. Immediately, the teacher locks the newcomer inside the warehouse and Doug observes that the virus hasn't had the same effect on him as it did on the children. Unlike the students, Clint has shown no signs of cannibalism or aggression. All he has are flu symptoms and a stomachache. While Calvin and the teachers wait for the parents to arrive, the children amuse themselves in the pools of blood in the courtyard and use pieces of human bodies as toys. As agreed, at 3 o'clock the survivors go to the roof and try to attract the attention of the parents who arrive to pick up their children. However, Racer's mother doesn't notice the call for help and is so distracted by her phone that she doesn't even notice when her eldest son attacks the younger one in the back seat. When the woman realizes the attack, it's too late, as she too becomes a victim of the zombie boy. At this point, Lucy despairs and tries to think of a way to warn the other parents. However, they are interrupted when a girl grabs Tracis' leg and Doug tries to help him up, noticing that Tamra has not been infected. When they discover that the survivors are on the terrace, the zombies climb trees to try to reach them and the group has to flee through the corridors until they reach the auditorium. After everyone enters, Wade closes the door, but Dink manages to break in and is knocked out with a fire extinguisher. While Lucy tries to calm the children, Doug and Rebecca analyze the boy's body and wonder why his blood is black. To discover the cause of this phenomenon, the science teacher decides to dissect it and Tamra reveals that she was scratched by one of her classmates. After extracting Dink's brain, Doug gives the prognosis and states that those children are no longer human, as all their organs have decomposed. Lucy then wonders why Tamra hasn't shown any symptoms since the contamination and Doug confirms his theory by asking if she's had her first period. According to him, the virus is only harmful to children and adolescents who have not yet gone through puberty. Suddenly, all the school lights go out and an alarm goes off. At that moment, they hear someone approaching and Rebecca becomes desperate. However, as luck would have it, Hitachi, the janitor, enters the room and helps the survivors escape the horde of zombies that invades the place shortly afterwards. Over the radio, the group learns that the Fort Chicken police are already aware of the attack and are taking steps to stop the contamination. The authorities report the spread of a highly contagious virus and are urging residents to stay indoors. At that moment, the group realizes that no help is on the way, as the school has been sealed off and considered a quarantine area. Determined to find an alternative route so that his colleagues can escape, Clint takes the school map and finds a pipe that leads directly to the teacher's lounge. Once there, he intends to take the keys to Wade's truck and everyone can head to the parking lot, as they will have a vehicle to make their escape. Before starting the mission, Clint hands Doug his bag and asks him to take good care of it, because the most important job of his life is inside. Furious at the cowardice of her colleagues, Lucy decides to enter the duct and go after Clint. She's convinced that she won't make it out of that school alive, so as a last act of courage, she decides to risk herself to help him get the keys. While crawling through the pipe, the pair hear a child riding a bicycle and Clint accidentally makes a noise that attracts the creature's attention. When she hears the sound, the girl approaches the railing, but doesn't notice the couple, who remain motionless until the monster moves away. When the girl moves away, they continue crawling until they reach the teacher's lounge. After getting the keys, Lucy looks for a cell phone and Clint has to hide from a zombie that enters the room. After seeing that all the devices have been destroyed, Lucy goes to find her friend and they both have to flee from the students who are chasing them. They quickly crawl through the pipe and take the opposite route to where the rest of the group is hiding, in an attempt to lose the zombies. Luckily, the two teachers manage to reach the infirmary and use a table to block the passage. At that moment, they come across the broken body of the school nurse and realize that Patriot is on his way to the hiding place of the other survivors, so Clint advises Wade to block all the passages. After inserting some objects into the exit of the duct, Wade ties the doors shut and everyone waits while Clint thinks of a plan to get them out. At this point, the writer tries to console Lucy, who despairs when she realizes that her chances of surviving the night are very slim. In an attempt to reassure her, Clint tells her about his time in New York over the last few years and they reminisce about the time they studied together. Believing that this will be their last night together, the couple kiss and, at that moment, Clint has an idea to get rid of the freaks that are waiting outside the room. After contacting Wade to share his plan, the writer throws some pills on the floor outside the room. Meanwhile, the other teachers scour the hideout for sharp objects and tools that can be used as weapons to organize an attack on the enemy children. Minutes after the young zombies ingest the calming medicine, Clint realizes that they are all passed out and arranges an escape with the rest of the group. The plan is to evade the monsters so that everyone can meet in the main hall. Then the team intends to go out the back door and make their way to Wade's car. With a tennis ball launcher in his hands, Wade guides the team and eliminates all the zombies that appear in front of him with a shot to the head. However, when they reach the court, the PE teacher's balls run out and the survivors are surprised by a horde of zombie children. Meanwhile, Hitachi remains inside the school and uses a broomstick to defeat the creatures trying to devour him. In this way, he manages to stop the zombies from reaching his friends. Outside, a real war between monsters and humans is taking place and the teachers must unite to defeat their students in a bloody battle. While fighting the freaks, Clint and Lucy try to prevent Calvin and Tamara from being captured and dodge the zombies in order to accompany them to the truck. When everyone is safely inside the vehicle, Wade throws the car keys to Clint and asks him to take the group far away while he sacrifices himself to stop the horde of zombies from approaching the truck. At that moment, the man ends up being devoured, but the rest of the team manages to escape. Now, the survivors' main concern is to find their relatives and make sure they are all right. On the way into town, Clint notices that the gas tank is almost empty and is suddenly attacked by Patriot, who has been hiding on top of the truck the whole time. Immediately, he brakes the vehicle and the boy slides down the asphalt with his face on the ground. Because of the accident, everyone thinks he's eliminated and are surprised when Patriot gets up. At that moment, Clint speeds up the car and runs over the monster, smashing its head against a tree. The group then continues on its way to Danville and Clint drives slowly through the town with the aim of finding out if the inhabitants of that area have also been affected by the epidemic. Then, on observing the scene, they realize that the virus has already contaminated all the towns around Fort Chicken and find dozens of bodies scattered around the streets. With no fuel to continue the journey, Clint parks and everyone has to get out of the vehicle. Terrified, they walk together down the deserted street and Doug finds an electronics store. They watch the news on TV and discover that the virus has spread throughout the country, with the Fort Chicken factory being the main suspect of the pathogen that caused the pandemic. Immediately, the teachers suspect that the chicken nuggets that were served in the school cafeteria were contaminated and Doug begins to think of a solution to eliminate the virus once and for all. However, to do so, he would need to find an infected nugget and take it to the laboratory in an attempt to find a vaccine for the disease that turns children into zombies. While the adults watch the report, a group of infected children quietly approaches the truck. After hearing a suspicious noise, Lucy looks behind her and spots the zombies, so she alerts her friends so that they can all escape. Just then, a chase breaks out and the survivors run through the streets looking for an unlocked door. When he finds a hiding place, Clint informs his companions and they all manage to escape alive. The place is completely dark, but Doug turns on a flashlight and finds a box full of infected nuggets. Terrified, they continue walking around the place and spot some unliving people on the ground. Suddenly, the lights come on and the group discovers that the place is a party hall. During the outbreak, a children's birthday party was taking place there, so the hall is surrounded by children hungry for human flesh. Apparently, there is no way to escape alive from that place, but everything changes when Wade and Hitachi show up and attack the zombies with water pistols while their friends get into Rick's van. Confused, Clint asks why Wade is throwing water on the children, because it will never stop them. Then the professor reveals that the liquid inside the gun is actually ethanol and lights a match to set the place on fire. After getting rid of the monsters, the group manages to escape and makes its way to safety. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.